it's all working now. So let's.
I just made a new one.
Hello, anyone that's watching us on VOD or anything on Twitch as we set up a podcast we've now done for over 400 episodes. We know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. I'll begin then, shall I? Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. One of your hosts, Ben, here with Aadil.
Hey!
And Lucy.
It's a new one.
We didn't get it again. It's weird because Discord's doing the thing again.
I said yo.
I mean that's yeah, yo.
Yeah.
Good.
Yo dog.
Hey dog.
Yo dogs.
Nice.
Dog.
Let's open some beers. Lucy, as people on the stream will have seen, you're on the water. Aadil, what are you going to drink this evening?
I've got one that's special for me.
Okay.
Because it's the first time I've seen one of these beers in this town, mostly because I may have pressured someone to find some beers from this brewery. It's a Wiper and True.
Nice.
I complained enough to Ben. Anyway, so it's the Happy Hour Pineapple Margarita Goza, which I was like, I wouldn't have expected. He's like, this is the one I could get. And I was like, this is not one I would have expected. So
yeah,
from Wiper and True, no?
Yeah. Happy Hour is inspired by a twist on the inimitable Mexican cocktail and bursting with sharp, fruity flavors, tropical pineapple plays against a tart kick from 48 hours of kettle souring with balanced salinity from sea salt. Instant refreshment in a can, our unfiltered beer may contain sediment. Pour gently. It's a 5% in the standard Wiper True 440ml can,
Nice.
and it's a little bright here, but I don't know if
That's
you can.
margarita.
It's a margarita with. It's even got salt on the rim, but it still manages to be sort of Wiper and True line drawing. Really like this art.
Nice.
Yeah.
I still, to this day, and it's years and years ago now, Wiper True did a kettle sour, and it's still one of the best sours I've ever had. That was like the summer of sours, I think, when it sort of started kicking off for us, like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
Wow, I can smell the pineapple from here.
Nice.
Which is
nice.
Here.
That's not usually an aroma that super comes out in
No,
beer.
not at all.
I'm gonna let you talk and do the nose fresh on camera. So
cool.
What do you got there, Ben?
So after Lucy drank some beers or drank a beer from Baron, I did a little order with them. So I had a look on their site, and they have a series called the Porridge series. I haven't seen anything about it. I haven't heard anything about it. But I was like, I'll get that, thanks. So they've made 4 beers, all rising up in ABV. Baby Bear, Mummy Bear, Daddy Bear, and Goldilocks.
Yeah.
And I thought I would drink the 2 in the middle, basically. So I've got Mummy Bear and Daddy Bear. Mummy Bear is 5.8% pale ale. A little bit of flavour text to say the second beer of the Porridge series. Mummy Bear is a New Zealand pale brewed with our favourite kiwi hops on an oaty grain base. It's got Nelson Sauvin, Motueka and Ruwaka. The grains are extra pale malt, oat malt, flaked oats, wheat malt, dextrin malt and chip malt. The yeast is WHC saturated. It's got a bunch of info about water as well, which is interesting, but I know nothing about any of these figures. And it also has a little bit saying nerdy bits. Loads of porridge oats for obvious reasons. Mashed hot for body and a fluffy finish. Hot side hops of Motueka and Ruwaka with an active fermentation dry hopping of Nelson Sauvin, Motueka and Ruwaka. Gooseberry, lemon and lime zest and tropical dankness. Lots to chew on. And that's the Mummy Bear.
Nice.
Howling at the computer.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I love Baron. So I'll look out for those.
Yes, I can't remember.
I
I brought these 4, and I got a 5th one. I can't remember what it's called, but I chuckled at the name. It's something to do. It's called like "Look at My Sword" or something like that, or "Where's My Sword" or something. I just thought it was very funny. I don't know why, because I'm childish, probably. But I'll pour this, and we'll come back to the Goza, Aadil.
Yes, great. So I poured with about a finger-ish of head, which is already gone. like I said, as I poured it, it had I could smell the pineapple up close. I mean, I told you I had a sinus thing, so my
Mhm.
nose isn't the best, but I think that's why I was so like
Yeah,
surprised
yeah.
to smell it from the pour that was like arm's length away. Yeah, so I'm getting the pineapple a little less now that it's been poured, but still there. But a bit more of the other tropical-ish flavors. I'm getting a bit more like I want to say passion fruit, but now so when I was in the Dominican Republic last week, they had passion fruit at the buffet most days,
Just a small flex there.
and it was the sourest passion fruit I've ever had. And now my brain is like passion fruit's super tart, and now I don't remember what regular passion fruit smells or tastes like. But I think that's what I'm picking up. Maybe it's a little more mango, a little more sweet. Again, I don't know what passion fruit that isn't the tartest of tart is anymore. It's also I mean, I don't know if I'm influenced by the flavor text, but it does have a bit of a salty nose to it as well.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if that's because I read the salinity line, but that's what I'm smelling. Um,
Ooh.
that is into Wiper true fashion, not a smash like a flavor.
Mm-hmm. More pared
But
back.
even on that first sip, which was mostly trying to like coat my palate, I got the salt, I got the pineapple, I got some tropical, I got a lovely tartness. It's 5%. Oh, interesting. It kind of finishes a bit wetter than I would have thought. But I'm wondering if that's my nose being a bit plugged and I'm missing part of it. But yeah, it's again light in the sense of not smacking you in the face, but it is tart. It's just not like so tart that you pucker your face, but it's tart all the way through. Has a lovely curve of tart, a little bit of salt, and then it kind of fades in, and you're like, oh yes, there's a sort of salty margarita bit. And then, interestingly enough, as that fades, the sweetness of the pineapple sort of soars, and it ends with oddly a weirdly slightly aspartame finish. I don't know what that's about, but mostly just light tropical, kind of generic tropical. I don't. Yeah, that's where I think maybe this feeling of maybe it's a bit wet or something about the end of the finish is making me pause.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like watery and thin kind of finish, is it? Or is it?
Yes. On my first sips, I thought so, but I think it's
Mhm.
just that it has this. I think maybe it's just. Yeah, there's so much going on, and I think I'm expecting. Maybe it's because I've had so many strong sours in recent months. I'm kind of expecting a boozier sort of finish, but actually, it's the fact that sweet pineapple hit. It's only 5%, so it's still a bit sweet, and then it kind of fades. And I think what it is it's the salt is still remaining. It's like the pineapple sweeps above the salt and then back below, and so it finishes kind of lightly salty. And my brain's like, "Oh, what's kind of sweet that kind of tastes salty? Oh, fake sweet." I think that's why I was getting like this. My brain went to aspartame, if that makes sense, but it's not. I think it's just it finishes a very light bit of salt, and it's just interacting with the goza tartness. And the problem is all the tropical flavors have kind of faded away, so you just get this sort of end of sweetness and this slightly salty tart. And I didn't know it's an odd point for this very complex taste curve to finish on. I think I just like was trying to capture that, and my brain went to aspartame. It's really this is like, oh man, if it was a hot day.
Yeah, I think this is more along the lines of the sour that I would probably get on more with these
This
days.
is definitely a sour
than...
that tastes like a beer still.
Yeah, as opposed to like the Vault Cities, that have just gone in
or even
completely
what are the
opposite
names?
direction.
Yeah. What are the big sour people? Starts with a P.
Pastore.
Italian sounding company.
Pastore.
Pastore.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
They also are in business of making really good sours, but sours that are like big, boisterous, and like about the things on the tin.
Yeah.
The flavors.
Yeah, and if they've kind of gotten away from what I really liked about them, like just like the, more. I really like their house, like Saison. That was like really good. I don't know if they still sell that, but yeah, they've entered into that territory. They're still, well, from what I know, very good at it. But yeah, just it's a me thing. I'm more like just give me something simple. I don't need 17 fruits on the back of in the flavor text. You know, because well, since I'm not drinking and I want to delay Ben drinking even more, it gives me joy. I had a cask beer at Attic yesterday, and it was just that was very nice. It was really well kept cask, and you know, it had the very like bready, malty, caramel, moorish kind of taste and flavors to it, and a little bit of citrus, and probably would have preferred a little bit more bitterness on the end, but it was just like, oh, this is what good cask is, and it's like, yeah, very traditional. So I think that's where I'm leaning to.
Yeah. Some of the breweries or some of the beers you've had on more recent episodes have edged more in that kind of way, golden ales, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Nice, fair. I've been on a bit more of a lager kick recently. I'm trying to find sort of because the sun's sort of come out like, ooh, nice saison, a nice lager now. Something really light would be good. Which this Baron beer doesn't smell like at all. Doesn't smell light in any way whatsoever, even though it's only 5.8%. Big nose on this solid block of very pale colour. It kind of poured with a reasonably big head to it, which dissipated very, very quickly. Lovely big tropical nose on there. God, that's really, again, it's like such a medium body for an under 6% kind of beer. Don't know. Again, they put a lot of information about the water quality on it. Whether it's something to do with the water quality. Where are they? Hertfordshire? Yes, somewhere in Hertfordshire.
I've been there. Antipastore, actually. Yeah.
Whether it's something
middle
to do with
of nowhere.
Water quality, water quality in the middle of nowhere is great. Don't brew in a sea, it's shit. So, and I'm getting a lot of lovely kind of, not quite, I think it said on there, tropical dankness. It's not quite dank. You can feel it's going to get there maybe after a few sort of sips, but you're getting a bit of that lime zest kind of running all the way through, and it's kind of almost heightening the flavour of kind of the other stuff that's kind of going on in here. Gooseberry is a really hard one to pick out and know exactly what that flavour is to touch on, but if this is gooseberry, I really like gooseberry. But it's quite sort of light in its flavour. So it has a nice sort of bit of fruitiness at the start. And then it does start to bitter a little bit. But it maintains that sweetness to that start as well. So as it bitters, as it becomes a touch dank, I think that sweetness is just holding it back from being a bit more bitter, a bit more dank. You know, it's not quite a big, ripe mango, stone fruit kind of flavour in there. It's much lighter than that, and that's quite nice. It would be a very good, like as it is right now, early evening kind of, or not quite early evening, but an early evening beer. You know, one of the first ones of the session that you want, and it is the second of the ABV in this porridge series. I will be very interested to go back to the baby bear, which I think was like 3.5%, somewhere around that, like table beer kind of nice. Sort of size. But this is very, very nice. This is going to go back super, super quick, even with that kind of slightly kind of sweet, but sort of edging on bitter. It's not quite a bitter finish, but it's edging on a bitter finish. But yes, very, very, very good.
Nice. Love me some Baron.
Absolutely. I haven't had a beer from them for ages. So when you had a beer, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get those things.
Yeah, I should take commission.
Well, you should. There's the last two breweries, the last two orders I've put through because you've had a beer. So we'll see what we have next week to know what I'm going to be drinking through June. Basically, I'll just match you every the month after. You're an influencer, Lucy. That's what you do.
I'm saving you money this week drinking water, so you can thank me for that as well.
Brilliant. To be fair, I before we jump into news, small anecdote. I bought some 0% beers at the weekend. We were having a barbecue. We were having some friends round. One of the dads doesn't drink, so I brought him some 0% beers from Aldi. He brought his own 0% beers with him anyway. But they're basically the 0% version of the Pilsner that Aldi do. You know, the super cheap Pilsner that's like £4 for 4 cans or something like that. And again, it was like £3.50 for 6 bottles of 0% beer.
Yeah.
And it's really good. It's like it's much better than any of the 0% beers we tried like in January.
Okay.
It's like the lager, but it's just got like an extra kind of sweetness to it.
Right. Okay. This is on my radar now.
Yeah.
Because my friend's in Prague, and he's like, come meet me for just a few days, and
Nice.
been talking about the beer, and I've just been imagining Czech Pilsners for like the last few days, and it's like, oh, when you said that you've been on lagers, Ben, recently, I was just like, I want a Czech Pilsner from Source.
Yeah. But I think the I was looking at ordering. I had a look at Donzoko. I had a look at Braybrook. I can't remember how you say it.
I know who you're on about, yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of other slightly more lagery places. But their orders were like X minimum, which was slightly more than I wanted to spend, and then you know much higher for sort of free delivery kind of thing. So
Here's another plug. Have you ever tried Bruiser?
The ordering service.
Yeah, because that's free delivery, and like say one time they do it monthly. So say if you felt like, oh, Lucy mentioned Atom, I'll get the Atom box next month or something like that. There's another plug, Bruiser, but yeah, they're I would recommend them because super easy to cancel. You know, the boxes are decent, and sometimes they like add in some of their newer the brewers, that is, some of their newer releases. Some are just like, here's the best that we our showcase one, here's our standard ones. So maybe something to like say check out if there's a brewery that is like, oh, a bit hard to ship from.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that delivery fee's just a bit more. Maybe check out them.
Nice.
You could just do it for a month and then cancel.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. Good. Nice little plug. Not sponsored by them quite yet.
No, sadly.
Nice. Let's move on to a little bit of news. And we're going back a few years to our fuck Ubisoft corner. Because fuck Ubisoft in general, but they have released a trailer for the new Assassin's Creed game. Assassin's Creed.
I shouldn't be surprised.
It's what was Assassin's Creed Red, which is the Japanese set game.
Oh, the samurai
which
one,
which is now called Assassin's Creed Shadows. But the thing with this, and they did this with Star Wars Outlaws as well, which is coming out later this year.
That's the one with the female.
That is one with the female protagonist. Yes. Yeah. And Assassin's Creed Shadows has a female protagonist and a male protagonist. I don't know whether that's you choose one or the other, or you get to switch between them. I haven't seen much about the actual game itself, but they have been locking missions basically behind different editions of games and what they're calling season passes. As an article from today from IGN saying Assassin's Creed Shadows has day one missions only available through season pass or by pre-ordering. What the fuck has Assassin's Creed got a season pass?
The thing is that season passes have been around for a while now, like 10, maybe 15 years. Usually, the smart way of doing it is just releasing the game and then say, oh, there's a season pass or DLC. It used to be called DLC.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, the new missions are only in the DLC. And I think people are a bit more happy with that. But when it's like, right away, right off the bat, there's a lot of content. It seems like I don't know. I feel like appetite of the gamers like it fluctuates. I think sometimes it's maybe depending on the game and how it's marketed and how it's voiced by the poor community managers. It's like it's a bit more palatable, but yeah, it just sounds like stupid Ubisoft doing stupid Ubisoft things, which has been going on for a while.
Absolutely,
boring games.
But I mean, you're right that even Assassin's Creed games have had DLC. It's just that has come, a month, 2 months, 6 months after the original release of the game, and that's kind of great. Do you want more of this game? Buy this small add-on for it and play some more. Perfect. It's the way games have worked for a long time.
It's like the capitalism has forgotten that it needs to say the quiet part loud. So for a number of years, people have been complaining that they're planning DLC. So they're already developing all the content. They're charging you full price, but they want to eke these missions out, by making you pay again instead of what DLC used to be, which is you all bought this game, so we're gonna continue making more of it and charge you for the development of that. But that like bait and switch, which people were annoyed at, was at least with the idea. Like the idea was at least we're pretending like we give you a whole game, and now we've made some more, so you should pay for some more.
Mm-hmm.
And then some companies were like, we're just going to keep making more and not charge you for it. And Ubisoft, in true Ubisoft fashion, has done we've done all this stuff. Why don't we just try and extract the money for this future stuff now, even though we haven't made it? And it just like it ruins the bait and switch because it's like, it's like double switch and bait.
I think what's happened is that the next Switch console? Double Switch and mate. Anyway,
no, that was what the rumors about the OLED were before. It turned out it was just the screen.
I think what's happened is they've probably seen the conversion rates for DLC, which aren't great. A lot of people, finish the main game, let alone be converted to the DLC.
Yeah.
So I think they're probably just going to try and get money up front when the game's hot, the hot commodity, and people are still thinking about it. It's in the zeitgeist. Someone's definitely crunched those numbers, and I mean, this is probably what is the result of that.
But it's a weird way to go, right, with these editions, because what they're doing with Assassin's Creed Shadows is they're basically putting out several different editions, right? So the standard edition is being touted at $70. The gold edition is $110, which you would presume has the season pass within it.
I don't even get a statue anymore.
Well, this is what I'm going to say. The Ultimate Edition is $130. Collector's Edition is $280. So you'd assume the Collector's Edition has got some paraphernalia about it. And this used to be the thing, right? Like a gold edition or some kind of edition.
Like a real one. Like, not a little toy one. I want a real samurai.
The amount of kids are going to have their fucking hands cut off just because Ubisoft are sending swords to people. But you used to basically be like, cool, here is the game. Here is a collector's edition of the game, which has got some great stuff in that people who want physical things, a cloth map, fuck's sake, like a statue, some stuff, a soundtrack even, The Witcher 3 fucking did it best because that came out with an additional kind of book, a map, the soundtrack, just in the standard version. They didn't add anything in, and then their DLCs came out like 6 months later, and they're like, we've made some more stuff for The Witcher 3, here you go, it's like £8. You're like, yeah? Why wouldn't I buy this?
People liked the game, and so...
Yes, very much.
People bought the game, and then... This is what I mean about...
That seems like the way to do it.
The game made money, so they made more game to sell, versus we've made more game... We've made the same amount of game, and we're hiding some of it.
Yes, we're partitioning these elements off.
Yeah, so did you look at what these editions were?
I haven't got that far through the
I've got it up
see
here.
If it doesn't say it in the Ubisoft one, potentially.
Yeah, so the full price game is Assassin's Creed Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
The gold edition, you get to play it 3 days early, which means you will play it poorly because day one patch won't be out. and that means it's not going to be a functional game. It's got the Seasons Pass, which is 2 upcoming expansions which allow you to explore new lands, meet new characters, and unravel new mysteries.
Yeah, I
Plus,
see that.
an extra mission available at launch, and infiltrate a secret society from the inside. Presumably, that's the expansion. So the Seasons Pass is essentially 2 DLC packs that are planned.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because if they're not actually done, we know that AAA developers, when things don't work out, don't finish DLC. But you're paying for it now. This is one of the risks, right? You don't know how big they are. You don't know whether these are like full on like.
Yeah, is it another like
DLC
3 hours or is it 20
like,
minutes?
Yeah. A mission quest line, right? Yep. The Ultimate Edition, you get the game 3 days early, the Season Pass, and the Ultimate Pack, which is a Sekiro character pack, a hideout pack, which I assume are just skins, like aesthetics for the character and their hideout, the Red Dragon photo filter, and 5 skill points, which lets me know, oh god, they haven't gotten rid of the RPG elements. It's going to be a horrible grind. Well, now you're grinding to not even get all the missions artificially, because some of them don't exist unless you paid more money. But the Collector's Edition.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So sorry. The Gold Edition is $110, so I assume probably the same as pounds. And the Ultimate Edition is $130, and the Collector's Edition.
You were almost right, Lucy. Almost right.
Is a steelbook, so it's physical. It's got a hardcover art book. It's got a diorama figure with dual protagonists. There's your statue. Actually looks all right.
Okay.
It's got the Season Pass, the Ultimate Pack, and the base game of the 3 days early access. So it's the Ultimate Edition plus a statue plus a steelbook plus an art book plus Shinobi's metal Suba replica with stand, Silk Creed Kakemono roll, and a set of 3 Sumi-E lithographs. So it's got some art. It's got like the usual stuff that.
And the Suba is the bit on the between the hilt and the blade. What I think is really hilarious
is if you pre-order any version of Assassin's Creed Shadows, you get the bonus quest called Thrown to the Dogs, and a smattering of retailer-specific pre-order bonuses that are also available, which is character pack lithograph and character pack depending on Amazon, Best Buy, or Walmart. But what this means is, if you buy but don't pre-order the Collector's Edition, there will be a mission you don't get, which is Thrown to the Dogs. Because Thrown to the Dogs is only for the eager mutts who buy this early. So you can spend $279.99 so probably 250 quid, to not get all of this stuff if you buy it on November 15th instead of November 14th.
Yeah. What I find hilarious is that the normal mission, which was, what was it, infiltrate a shadowy organization from the inside, or whatever you said, isn't that just Assassin's Creed? Isn't that the whole... Isn't that the Templars?
Pretty much,
I don't think you understand. So... The base game is actually just the opening cutscene. So it's kind of like Fallout, right? So if you pre-order it, you get the mission where you meet the dog. And you can roam around the city all you want. And then
just the base game.
In a couple months when the DLC comes out, if you bought anything but the base game, you'll get the game.
Yeah. The base game of Fallout is just you go up the lift and you just go back down again. Like, nope.
Yeah, set up a direct debit with Ubisoft.
I mean, to be honest though, like
I want to buy this mission now.
What is it? Odyssey? Is that the no? Which was the Egyptian one?
Origins.
Yeah, didn't that have like
It had the like the Wander the City historical mode.
Yes, that was free.
Oh yeah.
There were no missions in that. To be honest, that was one of the best parts of the game.
Yeah. That game did come out with.
Maybe it's like Wander feudal Japan with like a Microsoft Clippy pop-up factoid thing.
I think they called it a very specific.
Oh, you don't even get the pop-ups unless you pre-order it.
They called it a very specific thing in Origins. I can't remember what it was. something mode, historic mode, or
it's like
or something like that.
Mode
I don't think I've seen it in any of the other Assassin's Creeds. Whether
they did it in the Greek one. The one right after.
Odyssey.
Yeah, I think
nice.
Origins and Odyssey both had a mode.
That's cool. Yeah.
I think.
Oh mate, but Valhalla, having that mode in Valhalla would have been really cool. Like roam the ancient,
Yeah.
British
would learn about
countryside, learn about fucking
but I think they
the
realized
Norse
they didn't have enough
invasions.
money.
Like fuck yeah, I'll learn about that.
Anyway,
Bizarre.
so I get it. I mean, why buy a whole game when you could buy it 3 times over to get a grind fest?
Yeah.
Oh wait, do you get the skill points in the gold edition? You must.
No.
Oh yeah, it's part of the ultimate pack.
Yeah. You don't get the digital extras from that. So, yeah. Well, there you go. Probably another game none of us are going to play unless it's a free game.
No,
or
I
some
mean, it's
service
Ubisoft.
that
They haven't really. I mean, there's been a couple times where it's like, oh, an Ubisoft game, and I'm like,
Yeah, I haven't
interesting,
even
but
bought the Prince of Persia one just because they're
No,
a
that's
crappy
the
right.
company.
Yeah.
And that game looks cool. And the kind of game I'd want from Ubisoft. But...
Still Ubisoft.
Very much.
yeah.
Did I talk about Zhao? I don't know what the fuck is the full
I
title
feel
of that
like
game.
you
Tales of Kenzera. Zhao.
didn't or did.
No, I
I've
don't
heard
think,
about
I don't think
it.
I did. Only because I.
Well, I missed a couple episodes.
Yeah, I don't think
I
I
may
have.
have heard it on a podcast and maybe conflating.
Well,
that with you.
so Tales of Kenzera Zhao is kind of a Metroidvania game, but I only played the first chapter basically, because I kind of just lost interest. Unfortunately, it's got some very cool ideas in it. I mean, it was free on PS Plus as well.
Oh.
But after I played that first chapter, I then read a lot of things of people saying Prince of Persia, the Lost Crown, that Metroidvania one, is much better. And you think, well, it probably, big studio, huge IP, first game from an independent developer.
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be that, disparity between the two of them. But the kind of what I was reading about Zhao, it's quite empty. You go through and there's not a huge amount of kind of combat encounters. There's a lot of it in Prince of Persia, so that those kinds of the fluidity of the movement is good, but Prince of Persia again did it slightly better. Those kinds of things that I was kind of like, I have a few issues with Zhao. Oh, Prince of Persia's doing it better. Cool. And then I'm just like, no, I'm not going to bother. I'm just not going to bother with the Ubisoft game.
That it's like, just hurry up and come to Game Pass, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I'll wait for it when it's dirt cheap on sale.
Yeah, I don't think
not tell
any.
anybody because I'm not highlighting the company.
I don't think anything. There's no service currently which ties in Ubisoft Plus or whatever they call their element of subscription.
Do they still have that?
I think, yeah.
I think so.
Maybe get a free trial for that, and then just rinse Prince of Persia, and then just purge your Ubisoft Connect account, or at least the password forever.
Ubisoft Plus does still exist.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's on everything.
On the thing.
But it's not included in stuff.
No.
So it's not like.
Well, I'll wait until it's on there.
Yeah. Subscribe to Ubisoft Plus. So if I go on PlayStation's website, I can get Ubisoft Plus Classics, a 1-month subscription of $6.99. That gives me Ubisoft
You
Plus
need to
Classics.
get the Ubisoft Gold Edition if you want to play an actual game.
No, not classics. That's just JPEGs. Just JPEGs of the games that you can look at.
Yeah, and if you get the Ultimate Edition, you do get both the front and back cover art.
Yeah. Scans of the manual. I mean, it's one where Ubisoft Plus Classic games are pretty much all the Assassin's Creed games, all the Far Cry games, all the Tom Clancy games, the various sports and racing they call it. So Trials, Fusion, and Rise Republic.
They're taking it offline.
And doesn't include any of those games. Doesn't include the Crew 2, or anything like that. But Watch Dogs as well. I guess Rainbow Six Siege is a Tom Clancy game, so it's probably included within that element. This does say join PlayStation Plus Extra or Premium to enjoy the full Ubisoft Plus Classics collection. So actually, it's included in PlayStation Plus Extra and above.
Huh.
So potentially at some point the Prince of Persia game will come to PS Plus. I don't know how quick that turnaround is on release to adding to the subscription element, but yeah, there you go. Maybe I will play it at some point.
Did we talk about the Crew 1 no longer being a video game? We might not have.
Don't know.
But just what I was referring to is the fact that on March 31st of this year, Ubisoft shut the servers down, and that game can't be played without the servers.
That's it. It's done.
If you own the Crew 1, and you were hoping to get around to it, tough. Doesn't exist anymore.
When did that come out?
2014. It's 10 years old.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably not the episode to get into game ownership and lack of ownership and lack of control. But this is, remember, this is...
I don't have any control over anything in my life, so don't really matter.
But this isn't like getting delisted off a software store, right? Like, even if you bought the disc doesn't do shit.
Right.
That's
as I say, I don't know if there's a game that I'd feel so precious about where I'd be like up in arms if I could never play it again. It would be, a crying shame, but
Super Mario World, Super Mario 3.
Those will never go away.
Yeah, that's not what you said.
I meant like any game that would rely on
there's something about these online only games that like they don't have, none of them have, I agree. No, I don't think I have one in my brain that has the staying power that I'd be like broken hearted. But there are people who this is their primary type of game. So there's also just like the principle of, or at least it's a worthy of conversation of, what does it mean to buy into these things when they have an indeterminate shelf life?
Yeah.
And even from a game preservation point of view, right? The Crew is not preservable.
Really. Yeah.
Like, there's no way to, like, some of these games you could, like, back in the day, even, like, online-only games, like the original version of Battlefront 2, which didn't have a campaign, because of the thing, you hosted the servers, right? You had all of the things, so you can always play it. There's always a way to preserve that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not even a way of playing Empty the Crew, where it's all bots, right? Like, that game is just, like, utterly unplayable by anyone in the world.
Yeah.
Which isn't true with things like Forza and, those other kinds of, I mean, but even like the modern Forza Horizon, whichever one came out kind of recently, that is a single player game with lots of multiplayer bits added into it. So,
so that's sort of why... Yeah, it's weird because it seems very similar to other games, but it's actually not like.
If anyone
You'll
wants
always have the memories.
Yeah, well, if anyone wants some extra reading, there is an article on IGN. I don't know, pushing IGN this evening for some reason, I don't know, but more so because it's written by Luke Riley, who's very good game journalist over at IGN, one of their Australian journalists. You'll know him if anyone listened to the, I assume now deceased podcast. I haven't listened to that for a very, very long time. But
they had no filter. And it was great.
Absolutely, it was great. It was a bunch of pissed Australian people talking about how fucking stupid Ubisoft and people like that are. But he's got an article called "Delisting the Crew Makes Sense. Preventing it from ever being played again does not." And there's a big old write-up, big old feature about that from April of this year. Extra points because it's got some Simpsons references in there as well. So if anyone wants some extra reading on that,
all the time in that podcast.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I'm glad IGN are are not just the retweet Twitter kind of games journalists. I mean, website. They actually have journalism on there.
Yes,
like Rebecca
they do.
Valentine writes some really good pieces, and long time people like Luke Riley and like Ryan McCaffrey. They actually write really good, op-eds and think pieces. So I'm glad they haven't just become we're just rehashing press releases.
But like I don't know whether it's their socials team or whether it's the way that they've tried to push things presenter wise. But there's a couple of faces I see pop up quite a lot on their video content. They'll have dedicated video people. But again, IGN, I think last month or the month before, got rid of 3 long-standing staff who had, as they were in the process of unionizing, and then started to advertise for adjacent jobs that these people had. Obviously not the jobs that they had, because they probably can't do that. At least in the UK you can't do that, but I don't know in the States. But adjacent jobs. So even it's as we've always sort of said, you kind of don't worry about the not platform, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't worry about the actual place that you're going to look at it. It's the people that you follow, basically. It doesn't matter where they are, but if you you like the same kind of games as them, you agree with kind of what they say on certain games and things, then you follow them sort of where they're going. So it would be more that I'm going to read this Luke Riley article because I like the way he writes and what he writes about. So
that's a shame for those people.
Yes.
But
I missed that one.
Yeah, well,
IGN are doing good work. For stuff like
again,
that. So.
IGN, the people are doing good work. IGN, the company.
Yes.
I will say IGN, the company, outside of maybe this particular or this area, at least is not doing like what Kotaku, like we talked about a couple weeks ago. Right, let's get rid of news and just do 50 guides a week. Like at least that's like when you're like they're doing journalism, etc. It's like, oh right, not this is. I think actually to be the bar might be low, but we should still acknowledge they're above it, right? Like, oh yes, a video game news site doing video game news stuff. Great. It could be much worse.
Very much, yeah. Cool. Let's jump off of news then. Let's talk about some games. I think there's a few games floating around that we've played over the last couple of weeks to discuss. Does anyone want to jump in first?
Sure.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Right. I
Press.
took the Steam Deck to the Dominican, which meant I had something other than watching bad movies to do on the plane. And when I was feeling nauseous from my meds in the mornings, I spent like an hour or so where I couldn't really do like work or even like sort of wanted to just lay in bed in slightly fetal position, but I could put a screen there and push button. I've been playing Persona 3 Reload.
Oh wow! Okay.
What?
Yeah.
What did I stumble into?
Sorry, for those of you on the audio only side, Lucy's face is priceless.
Was this on account of your meds messing with your head or what? Tell us how you got here. I'm more interested about that than the actual
I've been
game.
meaning to play a big old long RPG. And I was looking at the price of Persona 5 because it's been really well lauded. I'm like, that's kind of length. And then some people were saying it's a really good series, but from the quality of life stuff, you might enjoy the early ones less. My completionist brain was like, oh, maybe I should play like 4. Also, somehow I had 4 in my library from some point, but didn't have 5. And then 3 came on Game Pass, and it went on sale on something. And I found out those things in the wrong order. So I bought 3 for cheap, and I was just like, all right, this will at least tell me if I don't even like the type of game, I won't even have to worry about like a full price or a newer game. Yeah.
Is 3 the PSP one?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was. It's got a weird history. So
I mean, all of them have, right? There's Persona has this weird element where they're like, here is this version of the game. Now here is maybe a full version of the game, but it's like the Western release of it.
So this is originally a PS2 game, but then it came out on the PSP as Persona 3 Portable. So this was 3 years later in 2009.
That's where I played
like
it.
Streamlined and quality of life stuff. And then there was also an extended version with an epilogue that came out, which was called Fez on the PS2. And so then Reload is the best parts of Fez and Portable with some more quality of life stuff.
Okay.
This is as close as I can get it. And so, yeah, Reload is the new version.
The newest version.
The one that came out on the PC.
Yeah. Came out this year, in fact. 2nd of February.
Yes. Yeah. Which is why I got it on sale a couple months. Like it was the first dip sales, right? It's great. I liked it. I like it so far. It's a very silly game. It's very anime-esque anime. You are a person who apparently doesn't have, your family is dead, so you're an orphan in high school, moving to a new high school, and you come to the town and things are weird because as you get off the train, everything goes green, and suddenly most of the people turn into coffins, and there's monsters, and you get to your dorm, and some weird kid comes and makes you sign a contract, and then you wake up, and then it turns out that certain type of people, so there's a 25th hour in the day that happens at midnight, but most people don't know because they turn into coffins. But that's when the monsters come out, and some people are awake during that. And some people have the persona ability where they can match with personas. And the weirdest part about this entire thing is you basically, in the dark hour, you go into Tartarus, which is a building that has like 100 odd floors, and it's like a grind up this throughout the 1 year of the game. So it's a social game in the daytime where you make friends in school and like strengthen your social links, and depending on who you hang out with, the personas that you collect will get stronger of that type. So you've got a friend who is like the justice type friend, and so if you're a really strong friend with him, your justice personas get bigger. And the whole thing is everyone can summon a persona. They do that by shooting themselves in the head.
Okay.
So you've got a turn-based combat where you're hitting things with swords or like a bow and arrow or something, and then you try to use your magic, and then it stops and does a cutscene where and so the whole party has a different persona, right? So everyone will stop and use a persona. So you've got this like Japanese schoolgirl who's like, I summoned a persona, and then pops herself, and then a big angel comes out and does a magic spell.
Yeah, sounds very anime.
So anime, yeah. But it turns out you're the most magic of the magics because you can handle more than one persona. So there's like a catch-em-all benefit, but also you see a door in the dark world where no one else can, and when you go in there and you meet this weird guy named Igor, and he tells you can combine personas and make stronger ones. And so there's a whole like min-maxing thing that I'm just not going to bother with because I don't care. I'm not going to worry about which characters I should like spend time with and which days. I'm just going to play the game. As soon as I let go of that urge to like min-max, I was really relaxed and just wanted to play and not care, which is like something I often used to get in the trap of. So, so I'm looking forward to
growth. Personal growth.
Like I caught myself on my phone looking something up, and I was like, clothes.
Get back on the wagon.
Make a choice. The best part is Tartarus, of course, is a building that appears in the dark hour, which is your school. Your school turns into the evil building.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like I've only just unlocked Tartarus, so it was mostly the first like week of school and some like meeting people stuff, and some mild social stuff. But it seems like a dumb fun thing of like hanging out with your friends. And like I've gone for ramen, and now I've got a new friend's cell phone number, and I know that guy has some link to some class of personas. I don't really I'm not sure how much I'll care. I might just hang out with the people who seem cool and see how hard the game gets. I suspect it's not gonna like ruin things. I just might not unlock the like. The one thing I did read was like how min-maxy do you have to be, and a lot of people were like, there are guides out there that will tell you like as soon as you unlock a new set of floors, you should grind it out in one night, even if it's really tough, so that you can have the rest of your nights for the month free. Because basically a new chunk appears every month, so you can only go so far in the like you're gated.
Yeah.
So high in the building, and they're like, just do it all in one night, and then you can do whatever you need to on the other nights. I'm like, or I could do whatever I want and hope I pass. It's like it's going to be really hard not to be able to beat the final boss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I care about if I end up playing the 40 hours of this game. It's actually only 32, I think. It's not as
Not
long.
the worst. No. I think, as you say, where people get really hung up is that min-maxing, and that's what lengthens out.
Oh,
the
I lied.
game
60 hours. God
massively.
damn it.
Oh, that's different.
No.
That's almost double.
I made a mistake.
Yeah, I have no interest in Persona, but
It seems
I've always
flimsy
liked how
enough.
stylish it is.
Yeah.
It is one of those
I think-
really good-looking games.
I think 3, whatever it's called, portable, is the only one I've played.
Oh, you've played this?
Yes, but back on the
On the
PSP,
PSP?
which is why I thought it was a PSP game.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
I
yeah.
think the most well-known version.
Yeah, so that's where I played it. But again,
Mm.
maybe for like 6 to 10 hours, something like that. Didn't get massively into
Yeah.
it at all. And it's, again, I'm back in that sort of era. I'm all about RPGs then.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, cool, I've never heard of this before. Let's play it. And even like
Yeah.
in the late 2000s, early 2000s, sort of 10s,
Yeah.
there are a bunch of Japanese-made JRPGs that came over here like a couple of years or so after their Japanese kind of release and stuff. So there's a lot of games that I'm like, cool, I'll play this. And it was already like 2 or 3 years old, and the sequel had come out already, or another one had come out already, kind of thing. You're 1 game or 2 games behind. Like Yakuza is a big thing with this, isn't it? That over here, like we get like Yakuza 7, and they're already up to like Yakuza 15 or something.
Except then they went back to 0. And...
Yeah,
that's true. And then all of these other extra games and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, and it is all simultaneous now. Absolutely. But yes, I played maybe 5-ish, 6-ish hours of this a long time ago. What was that? 2009, 2010,
PSP,
2011, something like that, probably.
I think one of the things that drew me to it is that because it's turn-based and it's like an older style game, it didn't feel like I would lose the flow of anything if I just pushed the power button without like worrying about a save state,
Sure.
like walked away. So it's like, my niece and nephew are already at the buffet for breakfast. Button, leave. Versus like playing like something like FF7, which is the RPG like I've been wanting to play, the FF7 remake, so that when
Integrate.
Damn it.
Yeah.
When that one comes out on the PC, I'd like to already have been finally like finished the remake, but I started on the PS4, but I bought it on the PC because I realized that I'm more likely to play it in my in this room or in the bedroom or something rather than in the lounge where the PS4 is gathering dust. Again, waited for a sale. I don't feel bad. I'd like the Final Fantasy series. I'm happy to buy that game twice. I just need to sell the PS4 disc because I was smart enough to not buy it digitally. So I'll get £5.
Yeah.
But that just feels like a game I kind of have to like dig into, and then like I would want long sessions, etc. So playing it with a Steam Deck for like 10 minutes of time doesn't seem ideal.
Yeah,
and this seemed like the right type of game. Part of its design was PSP-ish, so it makes sense that it plays well on the Steam Deck in the terms of the like pick up, put down, not just the hardware.
Yeah,
and so far it's been fun.
Nice, good.
Yeah,
good. We'll see.
Making teenagers shoot themselves in the face at the very least.
I like it when old games are available on Steam, like that, came out on other platforms or whatever, and they're on Steam, they're available, they're easy to just buy and play and be done. Yeah,
I assume
good stuff.
Is it Reloaded? Is Reload? Okay.
Because you reload your gun.
Is a like H. I suppose the original one was in like HD-ish graphics. Is this had like a graphics overhaul? Is there like what's Reload versus just buying Persona 3 Portal?
I think it's actually an engine, a faithful remake.
Right.
So let me see. Yeah, so
I could have googled this, couldn't I?
They redesigned the character, but they worked with the original artist. Was a supervisor on the character design.
Right.
And they refined existing designs and the equipment and stuff. And they have a couple new mechanics. But yeah, apparently they like literally some of the people from the later Persona games just had input on it. But it's like not it's not just like a remaster where they like took the original files and like export to 1080p. It looks like it's a proper redesign, but like basically everyone's saying it looks and plays like they remember. Like it's not being made to be new. It's made to be updated. Does that make sense? So they're not making it like, holy crap, this looks way better than it ever has. It's like, holy crap, this looks like it did before, but on modern levels of looking good.
Yeah, a lot of sort of the elements of it are anime-esque anyway. Yeah. So the upgrade in graphics isn't going to be a huge kind of step up almost from that sort of sense. But I just had a quick look, and it suggests that Persona 3 Reload is a remake of Persona 3, whatever FES stands for, rather than Persona 3 version. Portable. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's part of the things that they've added to FES, or the stuff that was added for portable, because it was Persona 3, then FES, which is the standard. Like, they make Persona, then they make it again. And then portable came out a couple years after that, and so did some of the FES stuff, but then made some, like, quality of life, and, like, it shortened some stuff.
Yeah.
To make it fittable on the PSP. And so the abridged content got re-expanded, but then the quality of life stuff was kept, I think is the idea.
Cool.
Something like that, anyway. I'm sure someone can at me to say I'm totally wrong.
Good.
All the Persona fans dogpile on you.
Yeah, this is it. Everyone's like, how dare you speak about the game in this way? I'm going to open a beer.
That's good.
As I said at the beginning, I'm going to drink Daddy Bear.
That's you.
Which is, this one is me. It's washing up.
Wow.
It's absolutely me.
That is you.
This is basically where I stand for most of my life.
Want to describe that art to our audio listeners?
Yes, absolutely. There is a screaming, enraged bear with marigolds and a scrubbing brush stood in front of a very full sink full of dishes. Which is why he's enraged and he's screaming. But this is a 7% IPA, and the flavour text... Ooh, that's interesting. Before I read the flavour text, Mummy Bear, which is the lower ABV version, is Guile 156, and Daddy Bear is Guile 155. So it's the brew before they then brewed Mummy Bear. Okay. So interesting to see what the other ones, what they've done first, basically. With this series, which ones came before, but this is the third beer of the Porridge series. Daddy Bear is an Aussie IPA brewed with some angry Australian hops on an oat heavy base. It's got Galaxy, Eclipse, Enigma, and Vic's Secret. The grains are the same, I think, as the previous one: extra pale malt, oat malt, flaked oats, wheat malt, dextrin malt, and chip malt. The yeast is WHC saturated again, and again some water information. And the nerdy bits, as they call them, a thick mash of all the good stuff. Oats and wheat working hard for a big silky finish. Hot side hops of Vic's Secret, smelling like jelly bear sweets out the back. A mixed fermentation dry hopping of Galaxy, Eclipse, and Enigma. Passion fruit, red currants, and sweet Mary Jane. Big, bitter, and punchy. So, suggesting it's going to be, bigger in ABV, but bigger in just the beer itself as well than the previous one. Aadil, I know you were feeling a little bit under the weather. You gonna partake of a second beer?
Yeah, why not? This will help me sleep. It really will, because I'm drinking another one from the other side of the country. It's a Deya.
Nice.
And it's the Deya Chelt Vegas, best by far. A big stout, no sweeties. Viva Chelt Vegas. It's a 12.5% stout.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah,
did not expect that from Deya. No.
Yeah, I've had it for almost a month, I think.
Okay.
And I just haven't. Other things kept coming up. Yeah. It has no flavor text except big stout, no sweeties. Viva Chelt Vegas.
Fair.
Yeah.
Be interesting to know the thoughts behind. I don't think I've. I mean, I was going to say I don't think I've ever had a stout from Deya. But if
That's
I have,
indeed why I bought it.
It's,
I was like, they're doing a what now?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had like a Pokem stout that was like 5.5% or something. That might have been, was that porter? I've had one or two here and
Yeah,
there.
maybe a
but
porter. Yeah,
Yeah,
but maybe not a bigger.
but not a
stout.
big boy stout.
Yeah.
Like that. No. Not that I can recall. Not at all. Interesting.
The nose on this is much bigger. You don't get that tropical fruit as much as you do from the Mummy Bear version, which was a bit more tropical fruit heavy on the nose. This one is dank. This is kind of getting lots of big, sort of stone fruity kind of flavors in this. There's a little bit of, I suppose, a little bit of a perfumed kind of note to it as well. Something slightly more floral, perhaps, in there, but like pushing its way through, trying to come out through what I assume is going to be a big chewy kind of flavour to it. So similar in colour, similar in that it is a solid block as well as the Mummy Bear. But a bit more, I'd say, like, interestingly, it didn't pour as smooth as the Mummy Bear. This one kind of was a bit more carbonated as well, and a big carbonated head which disappeared really quickly, almost like instantly, whereas the head on the Mummy Bear stuck around for a few seconds at least before it dissipated. But this, yeah, it's an interesting smell. Wow, that's completely different in its flavour from Mummy Bear. It is not the same beer and just a bigger version. And obviously, from what they've said, there's a bunch of different hops going on, so it's not, it isn't that kind of lifting. We've got 4 different versions of this beer. It's just bigger versions of the same beer kind of going up. This is a completely different beer. And it's an interesting flavour because you get a lot of that floral element in here. It's not a big, dank, chewy kind of, and as they say, Mary Jane, you expect it to be a bit weedy and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's got a much more softer floral kind of note to it on that first sip. A bit kind of, on the edge of perfume, potpourri, kind of slightly alcoholic element to it in there. And then the dankness kind of seeps in, right? Now that just suddenly appears. You're like, okay, I like that the more floral note is still there. It was there on the nose, it's still there in the flavour, and it's quite good that that exists with the rest of this stuff kind of going on as well. And the rest of that stuff is slightly more chewy. It is, and again, not getting into the Wiper and True level, or not the Wiper and True level, but the Dominican Republic level of passion fruit. This is softer in that kind of passion fruit sort of flavour. A little bit sweet as well, but not as sweet as the Mummy Bear, I would say. Definitely like a big old pot of like fruited potpourri, that kind of thing. When you get potpourri and it's like perfumed flower petals and all that sort of stuff, but with like slices of orange and shit in. Where you get a Christmas one and it's got like cinnamon and orange and all that sort of stuff in as well to give those sorts of flavours. This is
I get video games for Christmas because I'm cool.
To
That's
be fair,
I get.
I don't think I've ever got potpourri for Christmas. I mostly get socks. That's what I get. Socks and comic books is what I get for Christmas mostly.
You've still got some coolness.
Yes, a little bit of coolness,
candles.
absolutely.
I'm old now.
Well, to be fair, candles, potpourri, they live in the same realm, Lucy. So, but yeah,
Granny.
I mean, it's nice. It's not quite as smooth as the Mummy Bear. It doesn't go back quite as easily because it is a very unique flavour. And I think the Mummy Bear, I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm going to the end of the episode, but I think the Mummy Bear will appeal to a lot of people. I think this is a slightly more polarising flavour and won't be for everybody. It is a bit bigger, but definitely has like an edge to it that I think would put some people off. You know, that kind of slightly alcohol-y, but then into that floral potpourri kind of flavour that's quite big on it. Still with those sweet and tropical kind of passion fruit flavours kind of underlying,
So,
I guess.
Daddy Bear's an edgelord alcoholic.
Hello.
Depends what.
Absolutely not me in any way at all. Probably daddy being the only word there that relates to me. But I mean, I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
This is definitely a beer made for me. So I'm gonna keep cracking through it. And the joy about Baron is they're in 500ml cans as well. So you get just that little bit extra. Just to savour. Aadil, we'll come back to you then for the Deya.
So it poured very viscous. It looked thick. It had a very minimal amount of head. Oh, interesting. It smells a bit slightly. There's a lot of burns, but on top of it, I almost got a hint of like a tropicaliness, like a sweet hit. Though now I'm just getting those roasted malts up there, and it's masking anything. But there's almost like a tropical hit, but it might have been left over from what I had before, or almost like a hint of marshmallow. There's just like this moment. I'm not sure if that's just because there was like sweet and chocolate. My brain went to s'mores.
Right.
Oh, that's so viscous compared to the previous one. So even that initial swish, I can just feel it coating my mouth.
Yeah.
Just that 12.5%, just actually coating.
Is it kind
really good?
Is it viscous, or is it more sort of kind of oily?
Yeah, oily is actually a good way of putting it. Yeah, that's sort of what I mean. Yeah, so it's just got. Oop! I stepped on a cat. Didn't realize it was there.
Lurking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not too burnt. It's like lovely roasted malt character, rounds things out. Ooh. I mean, I've never had a Deya Stout before, but this tastes like a Deya Stout, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Smooth.
Yeah.
It's got like a light sweetness. It's got like, think like dark chocolate, like 80% cacao. That's the chocolate I mean. I don't mean like milk chocolate. I mean like a richness and like quite, quite cacao chocolatey. The sweetness is coming off almost like it's like smooth and almost like a syrupy sweetness. I don't know how to describe it. Just like, and again, I think that's that oiliness, that like thickness that's coming off. So like it's got this roasted character, this like bitter chocolate, and this light sweetness, all kind of melange together. It's very drinkable. It's not in your face. I think the saving grace is it's quite a nuanced taste, so I'm taking small sips to try and figure it out. But it doesn't taste especially boozy, which could be dangerous. But because this really rich, interesting taste can be fully experienced in a small sip, I think I'm safe. Because otherwise, I think I'd be in trouble. Because again, it's very drinkable, but it's 12.5%, and I'm under the weather. So like, I mean, for those of you who listened to my episode with Ben Younger a couple weeks ago. By the end, when I was editing the episode, I'm like, "Oh, you're slurring a bit, my dude," because we had 3 very boisterous beers, and we had been to the Hop Knocker before. Well, although he was working,
Happens
I don't think he was
easily.
drinking. Yeah.
I slur just normally, so
that should be my excuse. I should just start slurring on the regular, such that
no one ever notices anymore. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think what I like about this is that the malts are roasted, but it's not this burnt forward taste. The malt, it's like the malts are not in your face, but they happen to be a bit roasted, so rounded out. Again, this like rich dark chocolate taste and a bit of this like syrupy sweetness. I don't know how to describe it. So both of these, this is super interesting actually. I managed to pick 2 drinks that if you read not who they were from but what they were, you would think they'd be much more in your face. So the Wiper True like happy hour margarita goza you would think, okay, so this is going to be quite like tropical in your face, maybe a bit salty, but it's of course a weapon fruit, so it's kind of nuanced. And this is a Deya. It's a big 12.5% stout. It tastes luxurious, but it's not like in your face. It doesn't like it's a what is it, imperial double or something. I can't remember what 12.5% like translates to. And it's got all the bits, right? All the tastes are there. It's just more reserved in terms of like how punchy it is. And that's not just because it's like a weak taste, right? It's clearly a well-calculated, nuanced, well-balanced tasting beer. I'm just going to say now, I recommend tracking this down, especially if you're a Deya fan or a stout fan, because again, this was the first I'd seen them doing stout, and
Yeah, nice.
I will keep an eye out. Completely flew under my radar.
Yeah. It's not on the website either, so Deya are not selling it direct.
Best before October. Canned in October 23.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So I guess it must have come out and just sat in various distributor shelves.
I mean, but again, you're with the right style of beer that the date doesn't really matter that much.
No.
Especially for 12.5%.
Yeah, absolutely.
in a properly made tin. Yeah.
Nice. Good. Let's jump back to games.
Oh, it's also a half liter, by the way. I think I said it.
You will sleep well.
Yeah.
There's something about the 500ml can.
Yeah.
Which is just that much more inviting, isn't there?
Yeah, this looks good, but I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you put the Arbor pint can kind of next to it as well, and it's just sort of just bom 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 bom.
Then you get a regular 350ml, and then you get the little baby ones that you get on airplanes, and you've got
the 220s. Yeah.
Harrison Goldilocks Tins.
Absolutely.
I mean, in our world, Goldilocks is the Arbor.
Yes, I mean Baron. It would have been very interesting. Baron had done it in that way, like have a very small amount of the table beer, but have like a pint of the 8.5% double IPA we've made.
But I've had some Baron stouts which were quite high up there in percentage, and it was like, oh, I'm halfway through the can, and it's like 11 p.m. I cannot muster to finish the second half. I guess I'll just put this in the fridge.
Man, I've done that before, and I've put
the flat beer.
Well, so if you've got a like a container which is for like a thermos, basically, put it in the thermos with like that sealed top, and that keeps it for a day maybe. But I've done that before, where I've had a big stout kind of towards the end of the evening. I've gone, I can't drink any more of this, and I put it in. We've got one that I bought for soup, basically, and it's just like, cool, chuck it in there, put it in the fridge, and the next day you're like, okay, there might be a slight difference, but I can't really tell. It's maybe not quite as carbonated as it was yesterday, but tastes the same. Cool. So
maybe I should do that.
Small tip. Good. Let's get back to games. Lucy, I know you've got a couple to talk about.
Yes. Cryptmaster.
This is a game I really want to play.
Yeah, I know. So I'm not. Well, not much to spoil. I think. Well, I'll get into that. So for the cliff notes, I guess. Probably go back to your episode because I think you explained it well. But just as a little recap, it's a first-person dungeon crawler, black and white. Although you can change like the different color palettes, but that was the easiest one on my eyes. You can play it turn-based or you can play it real-time. The game suggests you play it real-time. It's first-person dungeon crawler, and the combat you do typing the dead kind of style, where you have to type out your commands, like all your, you've got 4 different characters, and they sort of tie into the standard like RPG kind of character builds, and one's the heavy, one's healer and stuff like that. So and you type out commands like soothe or hit or jab or this or that, and you discover these powers as you go through exploring the world and basically guessing these like kind of clues where it's like you've lost your memories and it's like you're trying to recall them, and then the Cryptmaster or whatever, he'll look into a chest and he'll be like, oh, what's this object that I'm looking at? It's like a ball of fluff with a string attached. It's squeaking, and it's like, oh, it's a mouse or whatever. So it's like, and you get those letters, and they all fall into place on like these tiles, and then you can infer what these other abilities are. Like it's like, oh, I've got a 3-letter word, and it starts with J, and I've got the A filled out. What's that going to be? It's going to be jab, and then you get that ability. But yeah, for the demo then that you played, and I played a little bit before just buying it and jumping in.
Yep.
And by the way, my demo save carried over
nice.
to my main game,
Good.
but I don't know if it's like. I'd imagine it was. I don't think they were on the same build or something like that, so I restarted again. But I hadn't got too into it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I'd probably just start afresh if you were going to Ben anyway. Yeah, the game doesn't change much from what you get from like the onset and even seeing that demo. The gameplay doesn't evolve in a way that I probably would have wanted. I extremely enjoyed the gameplay, and it's like one of those where it was like, yes, I was satisfied by what it gave me. It just didn't expand on it. It's sort of like Dredge last year, where it's like, oh, I'm really liking these mechanics and this gameplay loop, that I was taught in like the first 2-3 hours of the game, but it doesn't expand beyond there. And that's fine because, the runtime is, I think I had 14 hours on Steam. Probably about an hour of that is idle, and a lot of it is me getting lost because the game definitely needs a better map. It needs like an overall map.
Yeah.
Because I was just like walking around in circles, and the art style is like quite kind of like hard to get orientated with, so it's like I was getting lost so much. If it had a map, I think it would be a far breezier experience and probably a better experience for me. But there is this like really cool warp feature, so wherever you visited before, like the main points in the chapters, I think there's about 4 chapters, you can just either go to the menu, tab over to the menu to the map, or just type the place name, and it opens up this portal, and you can just walk through it, and you're right there instantly. Nice. So that's really cool.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Really, really well presented. But I don't think between the chapters there's like much of a cohesive story. There is an overarching like narrative going on, but it's like I don't think the individual places that you meet in the chapters tie everything all together. It doesn't really count for like a something like that's super interesting or involving, where it's like, oh, tell me more about this land, tell me more about this world. I want to look at every nook and cranny. I want to speak to every NPC to know more about my characters and about this world. You actually unlock in the same way that you do the abilities by guessing the words and unlocking the abilities, like words that recall the characters' memories and bring up their backgrounds. And it's like I would read them, but I was just like not really interested, because I think the game goes for more humor than actually trying to tell a kind of fantasy narrative. And I think that's what I enjoyed about it much more. That it's very dumb. It's very stupid. It's got some like, it has like typing of the dead. We're not taking this seriously at all. Kind of vibe to it, and I really appreciated that. So despite it not having a, better narrative overall, I can excuse that because the humor stayed up there for the entire time. Like the Cryptmaster talks to you and comments on what you're doing, and like the NPCs have funny dialogue, and it's like the game is always one step ahead of you, and can anticipate like it's like it's like an SNL character where it's like some of those people have been working together for so long where it's like they pick up on the joke and they can just finish it, and for other people and stuff like that. Well, maybe SNL's not probably the best because that's quite scripted, but like maybe Whose Line Is It Anyway? Something like that where it's like these people know each other and they pick up on the innuendo and can just finish the punchline. So and that's what this game felt like it was doing. So yeah, I think the humor is probably the outstanding part of it, because the gameplay is really interesting. I like the kind of elements that they've tied together. We need more typing games. We will always need more typing games. But it's good. I enjoyed my time with it. I don't think it got long in the tooth, but when I was done with it, it was like, okay, I don't really need to explore anything else. I've had my fill. In terms of the combat, it doesn't evolve either, because I think once you have found like a particular, well, I say build, but like particular few words that you can put in for the characters, it's like, okay, I'm just going through enemies, and it's not even hard anymore. It's like I'm just gonna do these 4 different words using all these 4 characters in this sequence, and that should usually kill all enemies within seconds. There are some tougher enemies, but you can just walk around them, and you don't really need the loot that you pick up, which is letters, and to guess more of your abilities, because it's like once you have enough abilities and you're wasting enemies, it's like, oh, I found a new ability that hits for 1 damage. Why would I use that when I have 2 damage already? Or like, why would I use this thing where every character has a cooldown? Why would I use this ability that requires my character to do a cooldown when I could just go in with straight damage already? And like, so there are some things where the game tries to mix it up by like, oh, there's an area where like just typing the word S makes you take damage, and so like, oh, maybe I shouldn't use all my abilities that use the letter S, but it's like, still, it's like, oh, I'll just switch it up slightly. I don't have to completely uproot my strategy.
Sure.
Even if it's like, oh, this character doubles in size if you use the word B or something like that. You don't have to go out your way too much.
I don't remember from the demo, but can you? There was like a page where all of the words that you discovered so far for all of the characters appeared on. Can you access that?
Yeah,
in combat as well, right?
In combat, yeah. Does the combat pause when you do it? I'm not sure if it does.
Okay. So, but even if it's in like real, I suppose that's the difference between maybe the real time versus the turn-based kind of combat. Potentially, you have that ability to sort of be like, the puzzle is presented in front of me of this combat experience.
Yeah,
I can't use the letter Z, which for like the wizard was zap or buzz or various different things. Or I can't use the letter E or whatever it is. But you can then you have that running tally of the things that you've discovered so far.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that was the thing that I liked about this game, that it charted that for you without you having to do it. And we talk about how we love some games where you have to get your pen and paper out and you start making notes and things like that. But this, in an accessible kind of way, very much was like, here's the stuff. If you want to know all of the things you discovered so far, here they are, right?
Yeah.
And then you can go, oh shit, I can't use that letter. Fine, I can do these 5. Brilliant. Okay, I'll do that. And it's not I suppose it's a little bit disappointing to hear that doesn't evolve very much.
No. And maybe they'll do a patch because like I couldn't even imagine playing this turn-based where it's like even easier. Like the real-time element is what actually gave it some kind of peril. Turn-based, like that would be even more of a walk in the park. So maybe they'll do like I don't know if this has difficulty modes off the bat, but maybe they'll do difficulty modes and like tweak the game so it's a bit harder. And yeah, because it was a breeze. So yeah, the hardest part of the game is like the main quest line. Some of it is like well, there are like side things which are like riddles that you can have to think of. Classic riddles like, oh, I can run but I have no legs or something, and it's like, oh, you're a nose or something like that. That's the answer to the classic riddle or something. But some of those are like, oh, I don't know what this is, or like when you open the chest, it's like, oh, I can't infer what this is, or the main quest line. It's like they have some like pretty decent puzzles, where I had to actually get out my pen and paper. So it's like that is where I think the difficulty lied a bit more. But in terms of the combat now, it's fairly easy. But
okay.
But it's enjoyable, and I think you'll enjoy it, Ben. Like, because you're going with the expectations that it's that demo that I played, which you enjoyed, and it's like it's not like it gets worse. It's just like it stays at that level, and that level's very good still. So, yeah. But yeah, it's good. It's good.
Nice.
I really enjoyed it. It's something different, and to hold my attention across 2 days for 14 hours nowadays takes some doing. So
absolutely.
I'm probably underselling it, if anything. It's good.
I'm interested. I mean, even with what you said, I'm still interested to get into it. So I will at some point.
I may say I'm a bit down on it, but I'm not at all. It's just like doesn't really expand across after the 3-hour mark, but the humor stays really good, and like it's very enjoyable. It's really good. It's really good. It's really inventive and creative, and I suggest anyone try it.
Amazing.
It's a typing game, so
I might just I might just jump in because the game I've been playing segues quite nicely off of this, in that the humor in it didn't really work for me. Okay. I've been playing a game called Fabledom, which I had a code a couple of weeks ago, came out this week, and it's basically a fairy tale city builder. Right. So it's...
What is it called, sorry?
Fabledom.
Okay.
Fabledom. It is a very cutesy looking, storybook style city builder.
Oh wow!
And you run through the motions of a normal city builder. You have to provide housing for the people that turn up to your small settlement. You have to have various resources like food to feed them all, lumber to be able to produce other things like coal to heat the houses, or planks to make other buildings. And you progress through, as a normal city builder, or I suppose not a normal city builder, let's say, but normal like settlement builder kind of would do. You have a certain amount of buildings open, and every time your settlement gets to a certain size, you get new things that you can then start to build upon. But it's very like cutesy, cozy, slow paced. There's no rush to it at all. If two people, it's usually two people, if they turn up to your settlement after a certain amount of days and you don't have enough houses built to accommodate them, you can just say, don't come here. There's no penalty for that. You just wait the next few days for the next few people to come and build another house for those people to kind of go. It feels very chilled. But the humour is just like full of innuendo.
Really?
And it's like, there's this kind of narrator, especially when you go through the early stage of the game. You go through the kind of tutorial-ish sorts of things, and even in the main menus, like the wizard that kind of speaks over. He's like, "Oh, I forgot my wand, and my wife talked about its size," sort of thing. I'm just like, what? Where the fuck did that come from?
They said it's set in a wholesome fairy
Yeah,
tale
exactly,
world.
exactly.
Lucy,
But there's this like.
Is that spelled with a W or just the H?
But it is like that. It is absolutely like that. I'm like, where the fuck has this come from? Like, I just like, and this character pops up and he's like, here's an anecdote that my penis is tiny. It's like, what? What the fuck is going on with this? Like, you've sold yourself as this like very chilled sort of like settlement builder experience, and some of the pictures I've seen of like late game fairy tale-esque kind of settlements, with a big castle in the middle and big sort of like walls, butchers and parapets kind of like running around, and the areas that are split off into like farmland and where people live and all this stuff. Looks great. I want to get to that point in the game. But this is really, it's not off-putting, but it's really, every time it happens, I'm like,
Yeah. Are you sure you didn't like turn the porn verbosity slider up like at the beginning of the game?
Oh my god, why don't more games have that slider? And in any directions, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I just took a look on Steam, and that the art style's like, it's like the Rankin and Bass claymation.
Yeah.
Ish. Yeah.
In the tropics.
Yeah.
Like it's just like a really bright claymation kind of feel. And so when you're like, oh, it's full of innuendo, I'm like, what?
I mean, I'm
The
sure
Island of
those
Misfit Boys.
were and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Magic Roundabout certainly was, I'm sure.
Mm.
Sure.
I mean, to an extent, a lot of that, yes, from 70s and 80s kind of TV and stuff like that, had a lot of innuendo in that very much went over our heads as kind of kids. And I would assume, that would be similar kind of now with something like Fabledom, but it just sticks out quite a lot as very different to the rest of the tone of the of the game. And it's kind of it's just a bit, disappointing is a hard word. It's not disappointing. It is just a little bit jarring. Let's say.
I can understand that.
Yeah. And I want to get to the point of the game where I've got like, orcs and cyclops and stuff like walking through my settlement, and I'm just finding it really hard to be like, okay, cool. I've got to a point where I've done all of this, but there's just this constant element. Do I just put it on mute and listen to something in the background and just enjoy the actual gameplay of this? Because it is
very
enjoyable.
Positive rating.
Yeah, and it is enjoyable. Like
I think they probably leaned into the fable part because that's crude British humour. So
I mean, maybe, and it's got some really cool elements. It's got some cool elements that you have. There's also this like dating sim built into this kind of game as well, where you are, you're the leader of this settlement, but as part of on a map, and your settlement's only in one area, so you can then actually talk to the kind of leaders of the other areas as well, and actually start to kind of flirt with them, not in a big, it's not a big dating sim kind of thing, but you can at least kind of like progress relationships, let's say.
It's Crusader Kings, and so it's right up your alley. So you are going to love this game then.
I find out that my bastard son has turned into like a cannibal or something like that. Yes. Maybe not quite as much in Fabledom, but funny you should say that, Lucy, because I played Fabledom like 2 weeks ago, and then spent last week playing Crusader Kings 3. And then went back to Fabledom this week. So
in your old age.
I mean, to be fair, Final Fantasy VII not Rebirth. Yeah, Rebirth. Is that the middle one? Is that the newest one? Fuck knows what the name of that game is. And Crusader Kings 3. I'm like back in 2020. That's it. That's the only thing I have to play this year. I'm happy, basically.
Why not? Yeah. Don't blame you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm back in 1997 or 8.
Oh yes,
8 maybe.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm playing Crow Country. Which I played the demo for. I think it was late last year, and it was like, yeah, I want this. It's a it's harking back to the survival horror games, the early ones, from kind of isometric camera angle. I think you can play with like tank controls, but also has like 3D movement, which is nice. Although I think like the shooting mechanics are like kind of janky on purpose, but
Yeah.
it's isometric survival horror in the style of like Resident Evil or the best Capcom game, Dino Crisis. And and it's got like these little chibi Final Fantasy VII original like kind of looking characters.
Yes, I was going to say it's a little more in that sort of vein, isn't it? Than sort of, it doesn't have the resi kind of graphics, although the gameplay style is very sort of similar. Yeah, it's much more in that chibi sort of style.
Yeah, but yeah, the gameplay is very much the survival horror. Like, I don't think you have a limited inventory. I've only played like probably half an hour of it. Because I was finishing up Cryptmaster, and then I was like, okay, I'm a bit zonked out for video games. But the nice thing is, can play this game on my Steam Deck. So that's good. I think you can play Cryptmaster on your Steam Deck technically, but it'll probably be a far lesser experience. Play it with a keyboard. But yeah, I was like, okay, Cryptmaster's done. Let me load up Crow Country on my Steam Deck. Works like a charm. Small download as you expect. It's like old school PS1 3D graphics. But yeah, it's fun. It's one of those where it's not leaning into the survival horror so much. I mean, there are horrific things like walking and shambling about, and it's like the sound design is like really good. It's like you look at these things and it's like maybe that would be scary in 1997, but not now. But it's like the sound design. It's like and it has like
Brexit and the financial crisis. What's a wall-standing skeleton? If it's not the prime minister, we're okay.
Jacob Rees-Mogg. But so yeah, so it's just like the sound design carries a lot of that horror, and there are like little few jumpy bits and stuff like that. But yeah, it's much more about set in a very abandoned place. This happens to be a theme park called Crow Country in the middle of Atlanta. So it's a really cool setting because I think you can be as whimsical with it, with like all the different rides and stuff like that, and it kind of like makes sense. Like in Resident Evil, it's like, okay, why in this weird mansion would you need to put shields over here and this?
Yeah,
this is like a theme park. Things are going to be a bit more outlandish and stupid. So that matches with the setting. But yeah, it's more focused on like the puzzles and like going from room to room and be like, this is here, but the object that I need is probably in this room. Kill a few enemies or navigate around them and conserve your ammo at that point. But yeah, so it's got that kind of very typical survival horror loop, and it's what I enjoy. It's what I like. But yeah, this feels like I don't know what you'd give your child to play. I don't know if they wanted to get into a Resident Evil game, baby's first survival horror or something. Because it doesn't seem like it's too hard. Like there's ammo most places. There's med kits most places. Maybe that'll get harder the more it goes. But something I suspect it's not going to be like quite as white knuckle and nail biting as some other survival horror games. I think it's probably going to be quite generous in what it gives you and focus on like the atmosphere and the puzzles. So yeah, it seems like little bite-sized game that I think it's SFB Games?
Yes.
Yeah, SFB Games have put out something. Look, it feels like a little passion project that maybe test, and it's like, oh, let's make this into a fully fledged game. It's not going to take us forever to put out. It's not going to break the bank, but it's like a nice little small side project, and it's good. It plays, as I say, like I think some of the controls are janky by design, like the shooting mechanics make it a bit harder, but it's got like good quality of life things. Like most places you go, you can just see all the clues that were given, so it's not like, oh, what was that thing that diary said in that other room? Where was that? I have to go all the way back. It's not like that. It's like, oh, I can just, in certain rooms they'll have a book and it's like, okay, here's all the notes that I've encountered in the game.
Yeah.
Like, which I think Resident Evil games used to do that and still do it, where it's like you hit the menu and it's like, here's a list of all the notes and clues and stuff like that. And yeah, and all the tips are in like similar books and stuff like that. So yeah, it's I'm enjoying it. This is definitely one that I'll finish. And just that I'll sate in. I'll just soak in for as long as I can, because it's like it's a laid back, despite being survival horror like experience that I just be like, ooh. I imagine that it's like, oh, I don't want this to end. It's like, because I'm in my happy place, So
it feels like, I don't know why. I have no like reasoning for this. But Crow Country kind of feels like to Resident Evil as and this is where my analogy falls down, because I can't remember the name of the game. But what no, it's a pixel art point and click, kind of almost Mulder and Scully knockoff.
Thimbleweed
Park.
Yeah.
Yes, it's almost like Crow Country feels like that to Resi as Thimbleweed Park feels to like the X-Files kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's an amalgam of sort of what's been going on, but in a very different kind of tone and take to that kind of thing. It's not pastiche, but it's kind of almost adjacent to sort of what is happening. Obviously, 20 or so years later.
It's like something that people would put on like itch.io as just like, oh, I made this cool little thing, and it's like 20 minutes long, and it's like, oh, this is what I just did in my spare time. Do you like it? And they turn that into a fully fledged game that's on Steam, and that's really cool. So yeah, I'm champing at the bit to get back.
Nice. I'll imagine this is a good time for something like this to release. With things like creepypasta, having kind of built over the last sort of 10 odd years. Things like the back rooms being a big sort of thing over the last couple of years and stuff like that. Definitely a good time for these kind of slightly alternative kind of horror games to start to come out.
It's very twee. It's twee horror, I think. Go play it. I think just releasing like in a time where people are very hot on indie games, I think it's maybe the calm before the storm of like most AAA games. I have no idea what's coming out this year. No idea. But like I haven't seen like anyone talk about any big games that I know of. So like and stuff like Animal Well doing well, and Cryptmaster being on people's go-to. It seems like there's been a slew of like really good top-tier indie games that have come out.
Absolutely.
And the new game from the guys Samogo, the Lorelei and the Laser Eye, or something like that.
The game wanted.
That's getting really good reviews.
Yeah.
Oh, has it? I just saw it pop up on my Steam saying it's released.
Today, it came out today, right?
Oh, if it's getting good reviews, I'll just I'll just buy it and just hop in, because it seems like a game. The less you know is probably the better.
The main reason I wanted a code was because I wanted to play it sooner, not because I wanted it for free, right?
Right. Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's always the assumption, where it's like you want to have the opportunity to like cover this game.
Yeah,
because it seemed totally up my alley. Come on, team.
So yeah, I'll probably just pick that up. I picked up Animal Well.
Nice,
So,
nice.
like,
That's on my list of things to look
people
at
said
this
this
week.
is a good Metroidvania,
Yeah.
and I was like, Metroidvania? I don't even need to hear the good. Like, I'm in.
But again, like Animal World kind of sits in this point where I've seen nothing about this game at all, and you have such the long tail of the what the fuck's it? The fucking needle game that's never going to exist. It doesn't fucking come out.
That fallacy.
Fucking
Silk Song.
Silksong.
Oh,
Yes, thank you,
yeah.
Silksong.
That's never coming out.
Yeah, you've got the idea of Silksong over here. You've got the Prince of Persia game, which has come out and it does exist at this point. And then all these people saying, "Oh, Animal World," and it's just like, ooh. It's not just a Metroidvania. You know, from what I've read, it has those elements of things like, not necessarily Inscription, but slightly more maybe like Pony Island and that kind of, you know, undertone sort of to it.
Yeah,
as well.
I've been kept in the dark on that one because it's just like, yeah, I'm getting good reviews. It's a Metroidvania, but if it has stuff like that in, get me in. Yeah, I'll get to that after Crow Country, and there's some good games. There's some good gaming.
There are
I
some
haven't
good
had
games.
good gaming in a while.
I think it's like I know for you, Lucy, kind of the start of this year, tail end of last year was kind of like, yeah, I'll play a little bit of this, but I'm kind of happy to put it down, and it's maybe like just nothing kind of like quite grabbed you in a way that a few games which have come out in recent sort of weeks and are upcoming kind of I think are much more in tune to what you kind of want to play, and it's you know, there will always be that kind of ebb and flow of stuff.
Yeah. I think people were touting last year as like the best game ever for video games. It's like
absolutely not.
Besides all the layoffs, which is not only worse this year. Maybe I was just in a weird spot anyway, but I just don't remember anything that came out that I probably would have enjoyed.
Absolutely, I was going to say, what name one game from last year which would feature in anyone's top 10 of all-time favourite games, or even top 20 of all-time favourite games?
I think Alan Wake was probably the only one I would have been like, yeah, this seems like something I would play, and maybe it would be up there, but
High for a Rush, Lucy.
Yes, I never finished that, and that's one of the saddest things ever. I mean, it'll remain on Game Pass despite unfortunately, the developer closing.
Yeah.
I'd love to get back to that because that was just joyful and colourful and fun and very reminiscent of like when games didn't have to be 600 hours long, and it was like you know, I don't know, PlayStation 2 platformer kind of era. Great game.
Yeah, I mean, there are some good games, definitely from last year, but not. It's not a.
I just couldn't be asked to put the time into playing them. You know what I mean? Alan Wake was the only one that gave me the itch that I can remember. The rest, I don't even know what came out.
Yeah, I mean, so again, big year.
Call of Duty. I'm not going to play anything other than Call of Duty.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Get an update.
Tears of the Kingdom was last year.
Oh yeah, that was boring.
Baldur's Gate 3, which I don't think any of us have played, but again, very highly acclaimed. Diablo 4.
Baldur's Gate 3 was again one of those things where it's like, oh, RPG, I really want to play one, and then the size and scale was like daunting, and so I bought the new remake of a 2006 game that means I can stop it.
I mean, there's some games. Cocoon, I think Lucy's another pick for you. Chance of Sinar as well.
Those are like the smaller games, it's just like those games were 4 hours each. It didn't.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
I mean, I've been on the short game kick for a while. I think this is why I was like, an RPG, because I think with the epic year I've had, winding down, playing games is the thing I want to do, and I see like more time to be able to play them. It's like, oh, right, now I can actually play a longer experience, and I've played a handful of satisfying ones, and so like the longer experience like bucket has been empty for long enough that it's like, oh, well, it's just like
yeah, I get that because like, but I think I've even like receded from that even more because I was like, I think I have one open world game in me a year. Now it's a decade, one a decade, and Elden Ring was probably that one.
Yeah,
So
you've got another sort of like
9 years.
6 years. Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. The one thing that I will mention before we wrap up for this week is that we'll roll back into the fuck Ubisoft corner, but Assassin's Creed Mirage, which came out last year, had an open weekend, I think you would call it, where essentially you could download the game and play a timed amount of the game. And so I was like, cool, I'll see what this is like. I've got, an afternoon kind of free-ish, or over the weekend I've got some time that I should be able to put into this. And I probably played maybe like an hour before the game went, cool, you've done your free time trial, thank you very much, goodbye.
Like, did it take longer to download than it did to play? Even on
almost. It was very much like here's the game, you can do some stuff in it, here's a little bit of tutorial about some of the stuff that Mirage is doing that other games haven't done. I'm like, okay, cool. And it's like, no, sorry, you're done, goodbye.
Yeah, it's like when someone says, I'm not gonna, go all the way with you, but we can make out on the couch. And you get on the couch and they just spit in your mouth and walk away.
Give you a slap, like walk off.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know whether it's slightly detrimental that consoles are constantly connected, that games are always open, and whether there was an element of that, that the game is like, well, it's open. You're using your PlayStation, but for like Netflix or something like that. So actually, you're just tracking down hours. I have no idea whether it would only allow me to play an hour, or whether I just wasted, 11 of 12 available hours doing other stuff on the PlayStation whilst it was open. I don't know.
One, wasn't it? Wasn't that marketed as the shorter one set in was it the Middle East?
Yeah, it's Baghdad. I think it's set in
Baghdad, and wasn't it like just like old school?
It was, it was compared much more to like the original, Assassin's Creed
trilogy, right?
And the Ezio trilogy than any of the newer ones.
That's probably why the time frame was.
So basically, what you're saying is I played like a third of it already. Yeah. So I spent an hour. I played a third of it. Done. They don't want me to play them all. Yeah. Pay 50 quid for the other 2 hours.
You give like a mission or two and like an open, like on that type of game you can give like the first city and 3 missions in it, and then let the player explore and do your ancillary bullshit and like be like, neat, I like the mechanics, or it was cool exploring. Like, if it's an open world game with a timed demo, means that the people who love open world games aren't going to do anything functional because they're going to look around first.
Yep.
Because that's the type of game you're making. Like, this drives me nuts, where it's like, there's different types. We have the technology to do different types of demos. What the fuck game are you making? It's like making a racing game that's a timed demo, so you can't even finish the race unless, like, you are the best player. Like, welcome to lap 3. And 10 seconds they're like, time's up. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it is exactly that. And it's just another kind of Ubisoft misstep. Yeah. Oh man, you imagine you'd have played Crow Country like 3 months ago on a demo disc for the PlayStation.
You would have played that mission 7 times.
Yeah. What was it? It was the original Metal Gear, where I had it on a demo disc, and you only had the kind of the first area. So as soon as you get through the gate of the first area, like the demo cuts off.
Yeah.
But you could spend as much time as you wanted.
Yeah. Well,
here is a tiny bit of the game.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
If a world-based thing, or even like something like Metal Gear, where there's different ways you can like approach stealth versus not, then people are going to get a lot of time out of that. But it's still the same tiny slice of the game. They're not going to like. They're only going to get more attached in that case, right?
Very much.
Unless your game is crap, right? Then you don't.
Oh, absolutely. I would assume there was other games on the same disc, and I'm like, no, this is the one. This is the game I will play.
Yeah.
And then I,
Man,
very much
those times, man.
Yeah. Whether I brought Metal Gear or someone bought it for me, it was like, I want this.
Yeah, dear Valve.
Yeah.
Next, like Steam demo, month or whatever you call these things these days.
The next fest.
Yeah, next fest. Next Squared Fest, do a physical Next Fest, where I'll give you $3 and you send me fucking USB key with 17 demos on it.
I'd love that.
I don't even get to pick which ones. You just give me some.
That would be sick. Yeah, let's make that happen.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, but I think
I got a Valve branded USB key that I'll never use because everyone uses cloud stuff. So I like take it to meetings or whatnot.
Apart from in my office. Because the printer works really. If I need to scan things, it's much better doing it onto a USB.
Than over the network.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it's because scan to email stuff is all garbage.
Yep, it is garbage. Absolutely. And the only USB stick we had between like 4 of us was just this really poor quality one, which was like this big, and you had to push it out of the casing that was in. So you try to insert it into the thing, and the casing just clicks back in. You're like, ah! And I had to literally use the jig on my key.
USB keys I never use anymore. Do you want me to bring them to Bristol?
Yeah. No.
Dead honest.
Please don't actually. There are loads in here.
Oh, you just don't take them to work?
They just don't go to work with me. I've put one in my bag since, just to take him with me. But yes.
My favourite one is one I got from... was it the first EGX I went to? I went to the Xbox bit, and they were like, "Oh, meet the Xbox people. That's fun." And yeah, they gave me a USB attached with kind of Xbox branded lanyard.
Oh, a lanyard, nice.
Now,
yeah.
What capacity was? So wait, what year was this?
I don't know. That was that 2015 or something?
Oh, so that must have been like an 8 gig if they were being nice to you.
Yeah. I don't think it was. It wasn't like 2 terabytes or anything like that.
No, but even then, even in 20 like.
I've only used it. I don't use USBs.
I know it does.
Yeah.
It's just
literally.
It's the latest.
I've used it for odd random things. I've done it to load wallpapers onto my Xbox. So like a 32 megabyte screenshot of like Samus.
Mate, but I plugged a USB into my PS3 before I sold it. I downloaded all of the screenshots, all of the save data, and everything like that. And then I plugged it into my PC and I saved it on my external hard drive. So randomly, I have a bunch of PS3 data, save data, on my external hard drive, which I will never use because that's not how things work anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine I could put it onto a USB. I could put it onto your PS3, but then you'd have to have the discs, unless the PS3 store is still accessible.
I will say a thing very carefully, which is so there have been technological advances with respect to the PlayStation 3 on the internet. And so I think that if you told me what the saved games were for, I could obtain the discs.
I have those in my PS3 disc library. Of course I have all of that.
It's one of the reasons why I haven't gotten rid of the damn thing. It's also, well, honestly, it's because it's a first-gen PS3, so it has the emotion chip built in. So it's like the internal chip-based PS2 emulation instead of the software-only PS2 emulation. I know this means nothing now because software-based PS2 emulation on my computer is going to be better the cell chip using an emotion chip to render the thing, but that's the only reason I haven't
Right.
installed
If
it.
I wanted to play all these games that we do on the quizzes, I'd have to go back to my PS2. So
Yeah, so I can play all those on my PS3 because
yeah,
there
exactly.
was like
So I'm
two
gonna
Yeah,
ship
games
yeah.
that
them
you
all
couldn't run.
to you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ship the really bad ones to you.
Oh,
Just gonna a
please.
crate to Durham. Yeah.
Please give me the Charlie's Angels game so I can stream it.
I will keep that. I will keep that. But yeah,
Brilliant.
for the quiz, I probably don't have time today. But
Mm.
we're gonna switch it up next week
Ooh.
and just have
One?
possibly name that property because the
Okay.
games are far
Barclays.
too obscure.
We're getting
for
really
you
into
to...
the weeds now.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm happy to go
I've
in the
chosen
weeds,
some
but like
weeds.
3.
We've still
Three
got some
weedy
bangers
games.
to come. There'll be some games that more than 2 people know. But I was like, let's get rid of some of these dross.
That's fair.
Let's just do it.
Oh,
Name the property, not the specific
I'm happy
game.
to
But
to just take enough hints where we finally get there. Like it'll just turn to some form of Pictionary or charades.
but there might be bonus points for the end of the year if you can get the very obscure title.
Oh, you guys did an episode last week.
No.
You
didn't.
Oh,
We didn't.
so
No.
Ben didn't get his half point. So the Wonder
He's got
Years
his
still
half.
exists.
I'm sure. Hold on, let me consult this. I'm sure Ben has his half point.
I thought
Or is it just the Wonder Years is going to
the Wonder Years is
one
my
that
half
kills it?
point, and then Ben was going to
Yeah.
get a DVD opportunity this past week, but then you guys didn't have
Yes.
the episode without me.
Yes, because someone guessed Commando, which I had just there randomly, because
Yes.
of course I do, because,
Why wouldn't you?
it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on everyone's shelf. Of course it is.
I wish it was on my shelf.
So good.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's finish there for this week. Adil, I know you've only supped a tiny amount of the...
I drank a bunch and then I
Ah, nice.
up with the rest
Okay,
of the can, and I
fair.
was like, "Good lord, there's so much left."
Yeah.
Let's return to you then for beer, or any final thoughts on beers.
I think what I said at the beginning of the Deya section is pretty apt. I think with a chunk of time with the Deya, the roastedness of the malts is coming out a bit more. So that syrupy sweetness is faded a bit. The bitterness from the chocolate I got used to, and so it's letting the malts kind of punch through a bit more. And so when I was saying it's quite like reserved, I still mean that in the sense of nothing's in your face, but it's much more malt forward in the roasted character than it was the way I described at the top. Still very good. Still getting. So what that means is that like slightly syrupy sweetness I was sort of describing has kind of disappeared and been like overtaken by the roasted maltiness. I'm still getting the chocolate, but it feels. I think maybe it's that chocolate and that sweetness is a bit more together, so it feels less bitter. So it just feels much more like a chocolatey undertone to a roasted malt than before, where I was like, oh, this is like the first taste. It was like, no, this is like a bitter dark chocolate and like a bit of maltiness. I feel like the bitter dark chocolate faded as my palate got used to the whole thing, faded. And I'm getting more of the maltiness forward. Still, the entire way through, it's been really enjoyable.
There it is.
He's sneezing.
Big sneeze.
Yeah, I could feel the sneeze coming on, and so I hit the mute button. But the action of leaning forward to hit the mute button made me not sneeze, but I knew it was coming. Oh, I hate sneezing. I'm one of those people where if I try and stifle it, it like burns my throat.
Yeah.
Oh jeez.
And it still kind of hurts. Yeah, and so the happy hour again was a really, really tasty. Exactly what you think a Wiper and True sour goza, pineapple margarita sour goza would be like. The salt was really excellent. I think it was the thing that balanced it to make it not too tart. And like again, by the end of it, that sort of saltiness felt a little more whole. So it didn't feel as like strange in the way that my brain was mapping to aspartame. Both excellent beers, both not the styles I'd accept from these brewers, but they're such good brewers that these are really unique but excellent versions of the things they were doing.
Okay.
Fully recommend both.
Nice, good. I mean, Barrow make very good beers. I would definitely jump on this series from them, considering the two beers I had, Mummy Bear and Daddy Bear, were very, very different beers. Daddy Bear actually reminds me a little bit more of like soup from Garage. The more I'm kind of thinking about it, in its sort of texture, much more perfumed than that, but it's got a lot of those kind of flavors. It's so much so that I, whilst I was drinking it, brought up Garage's website to see if I can put an order in from them as well, because you haven't got any beers, Lucy, so I've got to find somewhere else to do it. So my brain's gone Garage. Let's order something from them. But it's both of them are very, very nice. All I would say is that I think if people see them out and about or haven't experienced Baron beers, Mummy Bear is a very good beer for a variety of drinkers. It's quite broad in that none of the flavors are kind of like too in your face or too big. It's very accessible in its flavor, whereas Daddy Bear is a much bigger beer in the intensity of flavor. Completely different to Mummy Bear, but the intensity is massive on this, and you've really got to kind of like that slightly more floral, alcohol-y, bittery kind of end of that kind of flavor spectrum, which I know all of us kind of do, but this will not be a beer for a lot of people.
That's interesting, because like I'd say their beers are like pick up any one of them and they're just like very, very approachable, because they're good. But yeah, it's nice actually seeing them doing like experimental things. It seems like they've gotten to that point because they are working at a very small unit that got the distribution down and can do ship out some more experimental beers to places outside the sticks of Hertfordshire.
It'd be interesting to see what the next one up, the Goldilocks, is as well, because it's an 8.5, 8.4, 8.3% dipper, I think. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where that goes with this. But again, on the opposite end, to see what the table beer is like as well, what the baby bear is like, and how they
feel very flavorful.
How they kind of are able to see across that whole range of ABV. Because I know we talked previously last week about not last week or last episode about kind of how various breweries sit very well within a certain kind of like ABV kind of wheelhouse and stuff like that. So it's always good to see when a brewery goes, we've made this massive or this tiny beer, that it still gives you that same quality as well. So
that reminds me of like good chemistry when they made the Kokomo Weekday. Right, so the Kokomo Weekend is like a nice boisterous, slightly boozy IPA with a tropical-ish IPA, and I really liked it. And they made the Weekend, which is like 3% lower ABV.
Yeah, it's like 4% or something like that.
Yeah, and I was like, this will never work, and it's good. I prefer the Weekend, but I get it. And if I wanted to session it, have more than one on at the pub on like a Thursday, obviously I'm not going to have the Weekend. Now that I have a real job, I'm a philosopher. What the fuck am I saying?
You're a lecturer, sir. That's a real job.
Yeah. Intellectual.
Yes, exactly. An academic. That's exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Good. If people want to talk to us about the beers that they have been drinking or the games that they've been playing, they can do so at Tanked Upcast on the socials. I'm at Never_47. Lucy is
Tired at Juicy Loose 9.
And Aadil is.
Wait, is Juicy Loose 9 a new social network, or is Tired the new social network?
My Call of Duty account was hacked, so I'm not Juicy Loose 9 anymore.
Oh wow!
On apparently just
what a bomb
Activision's
to drop at
website.
the end of the episode.
Yeah,
When was
they were like, "We'll get back to you at like 6 o'clock in the morning, like 2 days ago," and they were like, "We'll get back to you in 24 hours," and I was like,
Wait,
48 hours later.
Do you think maybe you lost it from like clicking on the wrong link?
No,
like,
someone
your
just.
pod was phished.
Yay! That's brilliant.
And if you want to hear more dumb shit like that, you can find me on the socials at the
That's very
Omniarch.
good. All they did was link a random Steam account to my Activision account. It's like, why have you done this, random hacker person? I know I'm good, but come on.
One of them.
I don't care. Nuke it all.
But
It would actually make
it's
me
where
play
you
all
write-
the games on
but
the
it's where you write to
Someone
Activision.
else is Nicki Minaj? You? Is that how this works?
Yes, they bought the Snoop Dogg skin, even though I don't have any payment attached to my Call of Duty account. So.
But it's
Yeah.
where you write
Bizarre.
to Activision, and you're like, my Xbox account is Juicy Loose 9, my Activision account is Juicy Loose 9, but please detach the Steam, account Big Man 26
Yeah.
for 2069, and you're like,
Yeah.
cool,
Big Boy Mitch
yes,
or something.
absolutely,
Yeah.
Or something like that. And who dis? They changed the username to. I don't know. I haven't thought about it until now.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good. Go to outoflives.net to look at all the other stuff we do. Go to our Out of Lives YouTube page to see the beers that we've been talking about, our beautiful faces, and occasionally when we do have a quiz, the front cover of the games that are featured within that. That's all of the places, the beers that we have drank. They are the games that we have been enjoying this week. Thank you for joining us. We will see you very soon. We've been Tanked Up. Goodbye.
Bye.
Yo.
Yeah, never try and enable two-factor on a BattleNet server at like 7:30 in the morning because it'll drive you insane because it doesn't work at like 5 times in a row. So yeah.
www.outoflives.net